Hi guys, this is Klazar bringing another audio commentary, and this time I'm commentating on Game 3 of the MSL Group H round of 32 matchup between Ro and SK Team 1 Kanata. Kanata, who I normally find quite dull to watch, but I'm hoping he'll put up a decent performance here versus Ro. This is on Blue Storm, and I have to say I was reasonably impressed in what little I've seen of Ro in Game 1. He dispatched Nada with consummate ease. His micro was spot on, his game sense was good, and his tactics overall seemed to be quite sound. So looks like Xavier has trained a good young player here, and I'm looking forward to see what he's going to bring to the MSL as another up-and-coming Zerg player. Kanata, obviously, I'm surprised that he's made it this far, considering how poor he was in the on-game net duel tournament, and I wouldn't be sad to see him crash out here. He seems to have gotten through his match of Game 2 versus Sangho, which I've heard was a dull standoff fest between Terran and Protoss, so I'm actually not even going to bother commentating on that game, and instead going to skip straight to this game. So this is Blue Storm. I like this map quite a lot, and we've seen some interesting strategies for Terran versus Zerg. There's definitely room for innovation here. Obviously there's only one direction which you can scout, but as I've pointed out before, by the time that Overlord gets all the way down, usually a Terran player can get a Marine out if they want to, and actually prevent the scout from coming into the main and hide their main tech. So we've got Kanata starting off at the bottom left corner of the map at the 7 o'clock position, and Ro starting off, and Kanata started off with this pretty standard build, supply depot into racks, and it'll be interesting to see whether from this point on he decides to take his refinery and then go on to tech, or whether he's going to try something different. Ro looks like he's doing almost the same thing, at least initially, that he did in the previous game. He's got his drone waiting to pop up his hatchery at his natural expo, and he has indeed taken his natural expo, and I would suspect that after that he would take his spawning pool. It is a pretty safe build. I think very few Zerg these days seem to go for Xavier's triple hatchery build, as in getting the triple hatcheries before the spawning pool, the build that was made so famous by Xavier. But again, I wouldn't be surprised to see anything here. I suppose on a map like Blue Storm, it is important to get that spawning pool out at a decent time, especially to get that tech going and stuff. And interestingly enough, Ro has started taking his refinery and his spawning pool together. So it looks like Ro is going for a tech build. We have seen a very interesting 2-base build on this map. And I'm wondering if maybe Ro is going to try and do that 2 hatchery build from Zerg. Kanata's SCV is now in Ro's main, and Kanata looks like he's decided to expand his command center, and that would probably be what you would guess he would do when you don't see that refinery going up with the racks. He put the racks up but not the refinery, and when you see that, usually it's an indication that the Terran player might be looking to expand sooner rather than later, unless they're going to try and do a proxy racks or something else like that. So Kanata just trying to be annoying with that SCV, just picking away at that spawning pool. I don't think it's going to make too much of a difference, but it definitely looks to me like Ro is going for a fast tech build. He's going to try and get fast Mutalists out there, and really I think having scouted that, I'm surprised Kanata has still gone for the command center, because we saw how difficult it can be to defend that command center from effective Mutalist harass with that mineral line, and I really think he's going to struggle to defend it. So it'll be interesting to see whether or not Ro will take full advantage of this and go straight to Mutalisks, as I suspect he will, and he doesn't seem to be too bothered that Kanata has scouted this, and Kanata doesn't seem to be too bothered with it either. So interesting sort of play, and I think this is the hallmark of an average player in terms of Kanata, where they don't seem to adapt to what their opponent is doing. They just do their own thing anyway. Nevertheless, I would expect him to see him put up a relatively early engineering bay, or really get a lot of Marines out to try and defend that incoming Mutalist harass. Ro has not yet put a Hydralisk den down. He's got his lair spawning, lair teching, and my strong suspicion is that he will be going for a Spire as soon as that layer is up, unless he's got a Hydralisk den hidden in his natural expo, which I doubt. So that SCV, Ro trying to corner it down, decent micro by Kanata to keep it alive in Ro's base, therefore keeping him abreast of exactly what tech Ro is going to go for. I'm pretty sure by this stage Kanata and that SCV finally has been cornered, and it's going to get taken out any second now. And surprisingly, it arrives. Good micro by Kanata. He seems to keep keeping that SCV, but I don't think he's going to get another scout off. I think Ro has got him covered here, and he does indeed manage to get the kill off on the SCV. The layer is up, so is the Spire going to go up? Is it going to be a Hydralisk den? And Kanata has another SCV waiting, probably to try and do another scout. And this is careless by Ro. Again, a little bit of an amateurish play here. Kanata's got the bunker up to defend his main, to defend his natural expo, and Ro now putting up the Spire. So Kanata had that SCV waiting at the 3 o'clock pace to try and get another scout into Ro's base, see if he was indeed going for that Spire. I think personally there can be very little doubt in Kanata's mind that he would be going for that Spire. And I have to say, seeing those 2 drones sitting idle from Ro, okay, yes, he was microing his Zerglings around to try and stop that SCV, but it was still quite poor, and he's still got those 2 drones sitting idle for quite some time here. That's really relatively amateurish play. You don't expect that kind of play at this level in the Pro League. And Kanata has got a lot of SCVs surrounding his bunker. I guess he anticipated some Zerglings coming in from Quanro, having seen what Quanro did to Nada in Game 1. But the question is, how does he really expect to defend against Mutalisks? I haven't seen an engineering bay up for him, I haven't seen any turrets, and he's going to find it difficult to defend against him. He's now starting to put up his engineering bay. He's putting up a second barracks as well. He's got a decent-ish force of Medic and Marines and a couple of Firebats, but really, I just don't think it's going to be enough. Bear in mind, though, Quanro having gone for the 2 hatchery build, which seems to be gaining some popularity on Bluestorm, and it's like this. It's good to see the Zergs build of old come back into use. Quanro trying to sneak through, and he almost managed to sneak through. If he had maybe one more Zergling, then I think he would have gotten through, but unfortunately not able to get through the scout there. Just trying to see exactly what Kanata has in terms of defenses. Kanata now going all out for the barracks, and it does look like Kanata's timing with his engineering bay is decent. He's also got his academy researching stims there, so the spire is up. It looks like he's going to have the engineering bay up just in time to get a couple of turrets up, and it's going to come down to how effective or not Quanro's harass is. Quanro now mining both his gas, and still with the 2 hatchery build. So if Quanro doesn't harass effectively with his Mutalisks here, it doesn't do decent damage. And this is interesting to see here, a second bunker going up, lots of turrets going up for Kanata. I think Kanata saw what happened previously in this match, and I just, for the life of me, cannot remember that game. I actually commented on it recently. I just can't, for the life of me, remember which player it was that was on the receiving end of that destructive Mutalisk harass. You can see that Kanata has actually built a bunker because he realizes that it's a very difficult mineral line to defend. So he's put up a lot of turrets, he built a couple of bunkers, but I think Quanro's being quite smart here if he goes for Kanata's main, because Kanata has spent a lot of resources defending, and Quanro just warded off by that single turret. I think he could have probably taken that out, but I think he's just trying to be cautious here. So far so good for Kanata. His defense seems to be holding. He's just Quanro managed to pick off an SCV, and Quanro decided to take advantage of this opportunity to put up that expansion at the 5 o'clock base to have that hidden expo for the 3rd gas. We saw previously it was the 6 o'clock expo that the Zerg player went for. So once again, trying to pick off that SCV, trying to keep that mineral line from getting too strongly defended, and looks like he's going to try and pound away at those turrets there. He's managed to take out one of the turrets, so really Quanro needed to reinforce those turrets, and it just shows how difficult it is to defend against Mutalisk harass, and this is really turning out to be a problem for Terran players. I'm not sure what Terran players are going to do now that this strategy has become a viable one for Zergs. I think Terran players need to try and pressure the Zerg player earlier on and try and stop them from getting those fast Mutalisks out, and definitely fast expanding doesn't seem to me to be a very profitable strategy on this map. Quanro has killed off about 3 turrets, he's killed off a couple of SCVs, and now he's got that mineral line of Kanata's at his mercy. Kanata trying to repair that turret. If Quanro can take it down, Kanata's going to be in a lot of trouble. Quanro looks like he's almost going to take it down, bringing more Mutalisks in to reinforce, picking off that SCV that was building a second turret, and taking out the SCV building the 3rd turret as well as the turret itself. So Quanro very effective with his Mutalisk harass, killing a lot of turrets, and Kanata has invested a lot of resources in getting this expansion up and trying to keep it defended, and Quanro just massacring Kanata's forces, his Medic and Marines, and he's lost maybe a couple of Mutalisks at all in that. So really a very profitable exchange for Quanro there. He's killed about 5 or 6 turrets, he's taken out 6 or 7 SCVs as well as a handful of Marines, and he's basically made this natural expo that Kanata has gone for effectively useless, made Kanata's fast expand effectively useless, and really he's just grinding Kanata down with those Mutalisks, just using that cliff to maximum effect. And I've got to say, perhaps Kanata is just not innovative or good enough player to cope with this, but Terran players are going to have to come up with a different sort of build. Fast expanding to me on this map does not seem to be the way to go. It just seems to play right into the hands of the Zerg player, and Quanro with some brilliant play just completely stifling Kanata. Kanata has got no ground force to speak of. His tech is still quite backward, and his economy is in tatters. Quanro continuing to build up those Mutalisks, and meanwhile he's got his expansion up and running at the 5 o'clock position, and I have to say I'm very impressed with this young Zerg player. I'm looking forward to seeing what he can produce against perhaps slightly better quality opposition in the next round of the MSL, which it looks like he is certainly a shoo-in to get through to. Kanata meanwhile has built up a smallish force of American Marines and just trying to defend that mineral line, and really it's just not worth it. And already Queen up, Hive going up for Quanro. He's got the 3 gas going, and before we know it we're going to see some Defilers out, or rather Guardians out, and that's just really going to seal the deal. And I like this build. I think it's an exciting build, and I think it forces the Terran players to think, and Kanata obviously not famous in that department, certainly not the best, perhaps not even mediocre in that department. I know I'm being a little bit cruel, but on the basis of this performance I don't think you guys would disagree with me too much. Kanata, with the sacrifice of a large group of medic Marines, has managed to get another turret up in that Natural Expo. And really, the other problem with this build is in committing all those resources into, and once again, Quan trying, so Kanata awake enough to spot the Zergling trying to sneak in for the scout there. But really, the other biggest weakness of this build is not only the amount of resources that have to be expended in defending it, but the fact that the Terran player is effectively boxed inside their main, cannot leave their base for any reason whatsoever. And that really allows the Zerg player to comfortably take that third gas and really reap the maximum harvest for it. And I think that's problematic for a Terran player. And already the Hive is up, the Greater Spire is building, and Kanata has only just started building his factory. Now Quan is switching focus to the main. He's got a large group of Mutalisks built up. He just quickly picks off those 2 turrets, pulls Kanata's Marines down into the south, into his main, and now is going to go and pick at that undefended Natural Expo again. So really just playing with Kanata like a yo-yo, yanking him back and forth, and Kanata obliging like an elastic, like a toothpaste, and Quanro is spreading this toothpaste all over his brush and frothing it. So an unfortunate play by Kanata, really, and I think unfortunate is the kindest word I can use to describe it. He's getting that starport up, obviously anticipating those Guardians. I think Quanro is going to have enough with the 3 hatcheries. He's going to have enough Mutalisks and probably Scourges to defend his Guardians against that one single starport. I don't think Quanro is going to have time before those Guardians pop out to actually get his a science facility built and a science vessel out, and I don't even think he's going to have a lot of raids, considering how badly his economy has been hit by Quanro's near consistent harass. And this game has been absolutely dominated by the Zerg player. Really, he hasn't been tested so far at all in this group, and it looks like he's just gonna breeze through. Perhaps that's a testament. And once again, Kanata's pitiful defense is brushed aside by Quanro, and he's just having a field day with those SCVs. This is almost masochistic play by Kanata, and certainly sadistic play by Quanro, to say the least. Greater Spire going up, and again, Blue Storm providing an interesting venue in terms of being able to morph those Guardians right on top of that 6 o'clock base in a relatively safe position, and Kanata now opting to put that control tower up for a starport, and that's, I think that's not really a great idea, because by the time, I suppose he was hoping to get raids or something to help him defend, but really by the time he gets that control tower up and actually anything research, it's going to be too little too late, and just the amount of devastation, and the Guardians are up. So Quanro is just going to walk in here and wipe the floor with Kanata, now taking the expansion to the 12 o'clock position. I don't think he's going to need it, but I have to say, despite his impressive performance in this game, I have to say it's probably more poor performance by Kanata rather than great performance by Quanro. But despite his impressive performance in this game, and I know he's been concentrating a lot on his Mutalisk harass, it's disconcerting for me to see a Zerg player with groups of drones hanging around doing nothing, and Quanro now just wiping out and basically mopping up the remaining defenses at the Natural Expo of Kanata, and Kanata's got really nothing in reply, sending out a group of American Marines to try and pressure Quanro back in his main and try and pull him back. We saw on Troy, I think it was, with Rumble versus Flash, where Rumble tried to do something similar to Flash, but Flash obviously was up for it, and the response clearly, Flash with the two barracks was able to force his opponent to spend resources on Sunkens and really divide his forces between defense and attack, which is the problem when you fast expand versus a Zerg player who's gone for this build, especially on a map like Blue Storm. This is going to be the problem, because you're just not going to be able to pressure the Zerg player and not force him to spend any resources on Sunkens or on defenses, and therefore maximize his build and maximize his strategy. And literally, I have to feel that Kanata has played straight into Quanro's hands. That being said, maybe if Kanata had gone for a different build, I think Quanro with this build would still have been able to cope, even if Kanata had gone for a different build. And now Quanro just has free reign over this map, and Kanata quite stubborn in his refusal to accept his humiliating defeat. And if this was Quake 3, we would be hearing the humiliation wave a few times. We would have heard it a few times by now. So Kanata coming out with all of his medic marines, he seems to have managed to lure Quanro's Guardians out into a range where he can attack them, but Quanro using his Mutalisks as a shield against Guardian. I'm not sure it's a good idea to use those Mutalisks as a shield, but nevertheless, and the raid's coming out now for Kanata, and I can see all the good that Control Tower did him, and Kanata GG's, and really it wasn't a GG, it was a spank G by Quanro on Kanata, and Kanata schooled really there by Quanro. Impressive performance. But I have to say, I saw a few worrying signs from the up-and-coming young Zerg player Quanro. His drone control was far from ideal. I've seen on more than one occasion drones lying idle in his base, so nevertheless, I think he'll be an exciting player to look forward to. Let's see how